Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our webinar today on the Microsoft MPSA and the Select Plus retirement announcement. My name is David Buxham, the Marketing Manager at SoftwareONE, joined today by my colleague Paul O'Connor, who's our Sales Strategy Lead for UK and Ireland, and also a Senior Licensing Consultant here at SoftwareONE. You may have noticed as you joined the call you've all been set on mute, this to ensure that the sound quality remains at an optimum, but we do welcome a lot of interaction on these sessions, so please feel free to use the chat box facility, send us your questions throughout the session, and we'll have some time at the end for a bit of Q&A. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Paul to take us through today.
Thanks, David. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join us on the webinar this morning. Some of you may have joined us on the kind of series of these webinars that we've done, particularly around MPSA, or kind of as it was, I suppose, more widely called up to now, was Next Generation Volume Licensing, which was NGVL, but it's very much in the brand now of MPSA, the Microsoft Products and Services Agreement. So the reason for the call is just to kind of maybe do an update with Business Launch 4 that Microsoft have come out with. Obviously, I'll just do a little recap of what may be the kind of guiding principles of why Microsoft have made these changes, an overview of the current Business Launch 4 release. Again, just briefly look at the agreement structure and also talk then about the Select Plus retirement, because that really links into the whole release of MPSA. So actually, we will start with the Select Plus announcement because I think it's quite a clear message, and it does lead very much into kind of the options you have going forward and some of the maybe things you should be thinking about as you plan kind of looking at your agreements over the next 12, 18 months, even 2 years ahead, and kind of just maybe being that one step ahead. So Microsoft have very publicly announced that Select Plus as we know it, so they're kind of, if you like, their ad hoc program for larger organizations for purchasing through a volume license program is being retired. It is being phased out over the coming 2 years, really. So it was announced earlier this summer that Select Plus was going to be retired, so kind of I think it was the beginning of July. Is there any big impact to you today if you're trading under your Select Plus agreement? No, not really. It's more a case of looking forward, what are the big dates and what are the big changes coming. So actually, as of July 2015, you will no longer be able to sign new Select Plus agreements. I believe that will also include you won't be able to sign new affiliates under your Select Plus agreements. So basically any new contracts going through Select Plus will end next summer. Will you still be able to trade under your existing Select Plus at that time? Absolutely. It's more a case of they're stopping any new contracts or any contracts going through. The bigger change is as of the beginning of July in 2016, Microsoft will officially end Select Plus. So you actually at that point won't be able to trade against the agreements that you have today. So it does give us some time to look at the look at your options going forward. Look at, I mean, obviously the biggest impact for people is where they have software assurance under Select Plus. So again, maybe calling out that point at this stage. If you have active software assurance after the 1st of July 2016, will that end? No, it won't. The software assurance will run its course from, from the cycle from when you bought it to the point in time when it's due to end, at which point you'll have your standard options of being able to renew that software assurance. The point being you won't be able to transact any new purchases under the Select Plus agreement from July 2016. So really what does that say for us now is we should be looking at kind of what your choices are and what things maybe you should be thinking about going forward when you're looking at, transacting under Select Plus. Should you move to MPSA now? Or, when your software assurance is up for renewal, should you move to MPSA then? So it's all of these things, and what's the upsides? What are the potential pitfalls, or what are the choices that you need to be aware of? So maybe first of all, a quick recap of MPSA itself. So as most of us will know, Microsoft volume license agreements have been around since the 90s. So they're quite well established from that point of view. Early in 2000, so 2001 as I have there, Microsoft did introduce the desktop EA, so that kind of committed spend type agreement. Obviously between that time we also had Select, and then that being retired in favor of Select Plus, and all these other agreements happening during that time that we've seen, like ECI agreements and so on, again, that have been now replaced by SCE, the server and cloud enrollment. You also had EAP going the similar route. But back in 2011 then, Microsoft introduced cloud under the enterprise agreements model. So obviously buying Office 365, Dynamics CRM Online, looking at Windows Azure, all these things got plugged into the enterprise agreement model just a few years ago. So then about 2 years ago, Microsoft started talking about next generation volume licensing, because as we'll have seen over the last 20 years, Microsoft have plugged these programs, plugged these changes into their agreements, come up with new agreements, but still sitting on the same framework that was there for the last 20 years. So their idea was to really reassess this and rebuild their volume licensing programs pretty much from scratch. And that's where they started talking about next generation volume licensing, or NGVL, that you may have heard myself or our colleagues talk about. And really what they've done there is rebuilt the systems and made the agreement, I think, more future-proofed by starting with it's very much cloud first, so cloud ready in every aspect of the word. So again, maybe you'll have heard me say, under MPSA, you can buy Office 365, you can buy Dynamics CRM Online. There are some restrictions in there around Azure, which again I'll touch on as well. But it very much was update the systems, bring out new programs, and very much have it a cloud-ready agreement moving forward. So today, again, I'll touch on this briefly. A lot of you will have seen me show this slide before. Just showing the complexity of volume license agreements that we've seen since they've been in place, and the systems that behind that. We're all familiar with some of the systems behind that on the right hand side there, like VLSC, or from our side, Explore was the kind of the partner view of looking at the volume license agreements. But as you can see, a whole host of systems and tools supporting the volume license agreements that we know today. Primarily we're focused on today around the enterprise agreements, or those type of enrollments like the enterprise agreement subscription, EAP and ECI, which are now the SCE model, and the framework behind that, the number of contracts behind that, the number of signing points that you had with all these programs, before we even then start looking at open agreements and Microsoft's online store, the MOSA, where you actually purchase directly from Microsoft. So as you can see, a lot of complexity, a lot of room for failure in systems, and long drawn out processes in terms of getting contracts in place. So typically, again, just kind of focused in on the EA and Select Plus side of the Microsoft contracts. Again, the contracts were very much based around, a legal entity of a company had to be signing the agreement. You had multiple signing points for the enterprise enrollment, perhaps another for the SCE, another for the Select Plus agreement that you may have had as well. So again, and with all of that, if you actually dig under the cover, is you have a situation where you can actually be operating under different use rights depending on the volume licensing agreement that you're buying against. So again, quite a tricky situation to manage. And again, even managing the assets within those, again, using VLSC, Microsoft license statements, all these things, trying to gather all this information under one umbrella so you could see actually the assets that you own. So, lots of complexity. It was time for change. So going forward, we have the Microsoft Products and Services Agreement. It's a much more simplistic model. So the agreement itself is today, it's very much like the Select Plus type model in the fact that it is an evergreen agreement. So you do have a start date and you have an anniversary within the agreement, but effectively there's no end to the agreement. It is evergreen from that point of view. Microsoft assess the pools annually, just like they did under Select Plus. The points tiering, again, maps directly across the Select Plus. I have a slide to show on that later on. But the structure itself was very much, or is very much, about you have the kind of master agreement, which is the MPSA contract, and then you have directly linked against that just purchasing accounts. So you don't have this 3 and 4 tier level of agreements. It's quite simple. You have the MPSA, which is the master effectively that we've talked about in the past, and then you have these purchasing accounts. A purchasing account can be set up for a legal entity of your organization. It may be a business unit. So it's much more flexible in terms of what that purchasing account means to you, the customer, as opposed to Microsoft and the more rigid agreement structures that we've seen in the past. The one thing, one of the purchasing accounts becomes the kind of agreement administrator. That's because that's just the primary, maybe, that they all talk back to. But again, they are collective. If you have multiple purchasing accounts, you are sharing the same kind of accumulation of points that you can reach higher levels and so on. But otherwise, they are all purchasing accounts with one Microsoft Products and Services agreement. The tools behind that, Microsoft have, again, completely rebuilt. There's a partner tool for ourselves, there's a customer portal for yourselves, and then internally they have their field and operations portals that they work from, and that all backs into SAP, as they've said there. So again, it should be a much more, and we're seeing this, much more faster and easier and reliable signing process when putting a new contract in place. In addition to this, they've actually simplified the contracts themselves. If you signed an enterprise agreement maybe in the past, you'll have maybe gone through with legal and finance, maybe 50 pages of contracts. Microsoft have reduced that greatly down. It's below 20 pages. I think it's around the 15-page mark. So they've very much reduced that down to, again, streamline and simplify the process behind all of this. So all of that is very much a kind of summary of what we've talked about in the past with Business Launch 2, Business Launch 3. But really what I wanted to talk to you today about was Business Launch 4, and what are the big changes, and what potentially does that mean to you, and how can that impact you when you're making decisions around new contracts or the next wave of contracts that you may need to assess, particularly with Select Plus retiring. So the big one is that we have been talking about to a lot of our customers is software assurance is now available under MPSA. Up to Business Launch 4, you were able to buy license-only transactions, and also you were able to buy online services in the form of Office 365 and Dynamics CRM Online. But now you can buy software assurance. So you can buy license and software assurance for Office, for Windows, for Visio, etc. All these products are now available to buy with software assurance. So that really broadens the net in terms of who actually will find this new MPSA contract of use and of value, and kind of with a lot less limitations in it. Also with Business Launch 4, it's become, Microsoft have really expanded out the number of countries that are available to sign MPSA agreements. So again, up with Business Launch 2 and 3, it was very much only a few European countries and North America. Now they've broadened that. It is all of Europe, so you can sign contracts under the MPSA model. Australia, we're seeing Brazil and Russia and Japan coming on board, and as we look to March next year, you have a lot more countries coming on board, like South America, the rest of Asia Pacific, and Africa, and so on. But there is a much broader net now in terms of countries that can go under the agreement. But really, for me, the big impact is software assurance is now available, because obviously it means if you have a contract today, you have the ability to renew software assurance under the MPSA umbrella as well. Going forward, some of the stuff to look at is what's coming down the line. Public sector, we're expecting to come under this in the new year, so the first half maybe of 2015, and going on from there. What's interesting going on from there, you might say, is really We will ultimately see the retiring of, in my eyes, we will see the retirement of enterprise agreements and that kind of committed spend agreement, and they will be coming under the MPSA umbrella. But where we are today is very much similar now to the Select Plus model, license only, license and software assurance. The additional part is that you can buy online services, which is a real upside for customers because it gives them the ability to look at online services on a non-enterprise-wide commitment basis, and rather than having to buy directly from the Microsoft Online Store and some of maybe the challenges that go with that and the pricing that goes under that, it's very compelling. So I touched on software assurance. I think it's very important that we're very clear what is available to you. So as I've mentioned, license and software assurance, so basically net new products with software assurance are available, but also software assurance renewals are also available under the MPSA contract. The one exception for software assurance today, and we do expect this to change in the near future, is Visual Studio with MSDN is currently not available under MPSA. So if you're renewing the MSDN subscription or the software assurance, which is the MSDN subscription under Visual Studio, we do need to keep that separately today. But as I say, I expect Microsoft systems to be ready for that in the near future. Software assurance benefits, they are of real value, and it's really reaching out to your partners to see how best you can use them and utilize them and help offset costs in other areas. Of course, not all the benefits will be of use to you, but it is very important that you take that time to look at the benefits that you may have at your fingertips today that aren't being consumed. So again, mapping across the software assurance benefits that we know today are the same under MPSA. It's all around that accumulated spend and software assurance, and certain products open up the doors for things like training vouchers, planning service day, e-learning, 24/7 phone and web support incidents. All these things that we're familiar with, they stay the same, and how they're awarded are very much same as what we do or what we've known in the past. Obviously, in SoftwareONE, we have our. I hope some of you are very familiar with our licensing configurator, where we run Microsoft models against each other. We have now built in MPSA into that. So when we are doing that kind of modeling for you, or that budgeting for you, or the kind of even cost comparison and licensing models, we can simulate the software assurance benefits that you would get under each program. And again, there's no surprises there. It is very much in line what you would get under Select Plus, etc. The one limitation of the software assurance benefits, in the past we would have helped customers maybe transition or trade training vouchers in favor of planning services days, where maybe the training vouchers weren't being consumed in full, but there was a demand for more planning service days. That is not available at the moment. The software assurance benefits are very much in their packages. And there for consuming. The ability to trade them, that kind of thing, is not there today. Again, I do think it's something that Microsoft will change and will adapt to, because again, Microsoft wants you to consume your software assurance benefits. They want you to get value from the agreements that you're signing, so that ultimately, it's a much more positive conversation when you're looking to renew contracts, that you have got additional value from the agreements. I've added in an additional piece that isn't directly to software assurance, but around the online services. So again, if you're familiar with the MPSA contract already, or from what I've said even this morning, Office 365, Dynamics CRM Online, these products are readily available under MPSA. You can buy them on a non-enterprise-wide commitment, so you've got that kind of compelling ability to try these products rather than the enterprise-wide commitment if you're going that route, which is under the enterprise agreement. The one product that isn't available under MPSA today is Windows Azure. Again, I do expect that to change in the very near future. For those of you speaking to Microsoft regularly, Windows Azure is a really big project for them. It's one of their key products and key offerings that they're really trying to bring out to market, and I think it is really ramping up for them. but just to be very clear, it's not available under MPSA today. However, with Azure, there are other options because you can have a Windows Azure agreement all of its own under the kind of EA type model, under the SE part of the EA type model. So again, it's not like our hands are bound or we're restricted by something. It's just we're using the existing channels to put Azure in place. So this slide I thought would be handy for you to see because it kind of just sums up the agreement types that we know today, and it covers the conversations of Select Plus retiring and MPSA coming online. Really kind of now it's no longer pilot, it is a reality. So I just wanted to summarize kind of the types of products that you can purchase under the various kind of large contracts that we know. So for online services, as you can see, the enterprise agreement and MPSA, as I've stressed today, is available under both of those. It's not available under Select Plus, and we don't expect online services to be available under Select Plus as it is going to be retired. License-only purchases, again, for those familiar with the enterprise agreement, software assurance is a core part of the enterprise agreement, so there you can't buy license-only. Obviously, that's where your Select Plus contract would have come into play, or your MPSA contract going forward. License and software assurance is across all of the agreement types because under the EA, it is a core part of it. Select Plus, it was a choice whether you went license only or license and software assurance. And again, the MPSA, same as Select Plus, you had the choice. Again, software assurance renewal, again, under all of the contracts. It's just renewing the SA under each of them. You might look at this and first glance and go, well, why would I bother signing an enterprise agreement going forward when I can just sign an MPSA? The MPSA is not there to replace your enterprise agreement today. That will yet to develop when Microsoft looked to actually start retiring EA agreements and moving to committed spends under the MPSA, and they'll bring models in for that. The MPSA really today, if you have an EA, I would say the MPSA contract is your Select Plus going forward. So it's that contract that runs in parallel, that you buy your ad hoc purchases under, your license-only products, your products that you aren't going enterprise-wide commitment on, things like that. So it is very much an EA with MPSA going forward rather than EA plus Select Plus that we've seen in the past. So just looking at kind of again, a little bit of a summary of the MPSA. It is transactional purchasing, so you can buy in any quantity. It is a single agreement type, and ordering is in real time. You have access to the downloads, all that normal stuff that we're familiar with Select Plus. In addition to that, we've got the cloud purchasing, where obviously we've touched on it today, but really to emphasize it, Office 365, Dynamics CRM Online, are now available or always have been available under MPSA, and that's we've seen that as a real positive with customers because they didn't have to make that full leap initially to enterprise-wide commitment. Obviously now we have license and software assurance under MPSA, and then kind of in that far right-hand side we have that committed purchasing. That's yet to come. That's your replacement of the enterprise agreement as I see it going forward. That's not where we are yet, but that is what we expect and where we see this, where we see Microsoft making changes in the near future. So again, I mentioned earlier on I would show this slide again with the just to show you the kind of the pools that Microsoft work from, which is where most will be familiar with the applications, servers, and systems pools. It's the same across nearly all Microsoft volume license agreements, that they break them down into those three pools. In addition to that, then you've got the points to achieve levels, obviously level D being the most favorable from a price point of view, but the various levels within that and the points needed to achieve to reach those levels. Again, if you're familiar with that kind of view, you'll see that it's the exact same here for MPSA as it was for Select Plus and Select before that that we've seen in previous years. So wrapping up, kind of I think 2 slides left. just some considerations for why you would look at an MPSA agreement. First of all, I've already touched on it. It's that enterprise agreement attached, that kind of agreement that runs in parallel to your enterprise agreement that your Select Plus agreement would have been passed. You know, very useful. We've done that in the past for many years. We've had kind of these contracts running in parallel to our enterprise agreements. A big one that we're really looking for customers, or looking to assist customers with, is open agreement consolidation. If you're a relatively large organization, kind of 200, 250 mark, and you've a lot of open agreements, be it open business, open value subscription, you may have a number of these on the go at any given point in time. So a real way of is to consolidate all of these agreements by putting an MPSA agreement in place. You have the same kind of ability as you do under the open agreements, but a better price point. So it really is worth looking at having that conversation around consolidating your agreements today. Moving on from there, we've got the Select or Select Plus renewals. So any SA retiring under that you have under Select Plus, I would suggest you renew that under MPSA. But even if you're a transactional customer under Select Plus that traditionally buys license only and not software assurance, I would raise the question: why not make the move to an MPSA agreement with your next spend? Because obviously by doing that, you move to ultimately a better agreement, better portals supporting that, more reliable. You can inherit the price level that you have from your existing agreement across to the new agreement, and you're kind of, I suppose, again, one step ahead of the game in terms of what's coming from Microsoft going forward. Lots of customers are buying their online services products directly online from Microsoft. There's nothing wrong with that, but maybe there's challenges with billing, that it's direct billing by Microsoft. In some cases, it's upfront billing. By putting it under an MPSA agreement, again, you can manage perhaps the timelines of the agreement better, the billing process and the management behind that, and even the price point that you will look at, I believe, will be more favorable under a volume license agreement as it would be, or than it would be under Microsoft's store. Final one I have in there is obviously, why would I sign a net new Select Plus agreement today when we know it is expiring? I would be, my advice to you would be sign an MPSA agreement. It has the flexibility that we need now with software assurance available. Just moving on from there, kind of a summary from me, and then open it up to questions. So Select Plus is expiring as of July 2015. You won't be able to sign any new types of contracts. July 2016, you won't be able to trade against your existing agreements. MPSA, it is that centralized model. The systems, we are seeing them as far better. It's easier to get the contracts in place. It's more reliable. It is that transactional type program, so it is that replacement for Select Plus. Now with software assurance available. Again, it's very much led from the front with online services ready, so you can buy your Office 365, Dynamics CRM online, etc. under the agreement. You can buy license only, you can buy license and software assurance. The two to call out there is obviously Windows Azure not available under MPSA yet, and excuse me, Visual Studio with MSDN not available yet. Still, it is a commercial agreement. Government and academic are to follow, and we are seeing the timelines for those coming through. NGVL or MPSA, we're seeing the expansion of countries, so it is going global. That was very much down to the Microsoft subsidiaries as to when they wanted to ramp it up and how far along the kind of releases they were going to jump in on it. The price levels, pools, points, it's very much the same as what we know from Select Plus. There's nothing complex or hidden there. So it is as we know, and we can inherit price levels through. Again, just looking at, we can have agreements running in parallel together. You can have your EA and an MPSA contract running in parallel together. You can even have your Select Plus and your new MPSA running in parallel together. You may say, why would you do that? For example, if there's one or two elements that you need to continue, like Visual Studio with MSDN, you may continue that under your Select Plus, but everything else moving towards MPSA. That's it from my side. I would open the floor to questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Paul. I hope you've all found that informative and valuable with your time on the call today. Now's an opportunity to ask some questions, and hopefully we can address most of them on the call now. So the first one, actually there's kind of two questions that came from the same person. They're probably joined up together. So it's with regards to the SCE replacement for EAP, and how does MPSA work in relation to the SQL Server database processors and cores licensing?
Okay, so just to clarify the first part of the question, which is around the agreement type. So the SCE, or formerly EAP or ECI, what is an enterprise type agreement? It is a committed spend agreement, so it is under the enterprise agreement umbrella. They will continue to stay in place until Microsoft start considering moving enterprise agreements under the MPSA model. But to be very clear, there's no change today. Your EA, your enterprise agreement subscription, your SCE still remain under the enterprise agreement umbrella, that committed spend umbrella. The second half of that question, under MPSA, so if I understand the question correctly, the licensing type for the products doesn't change. So SQL, as we've seen over the past couple of years, there was a move in particular from a per processor model to a per core model. That is the exact same under MPSA. That doesn't change across the different agreement types.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So the second question is, I'm not sure if this is in the scope of the discussion. Is there any indication on the roadmap on whether Microsoft will move the server data center agreements from per processor to per thread, as they did with SQL recently? This will have a considerable cost implication for those heavily utilizing virtualization.
Yep, so again, not directly related to today's topic, but absolutely, I mean, we have these conversations with Microsoft very regularly. As we saw a couple of years ago, I believe back in 2012, with the release of Windows Server 2012 and System Center 2012, they moved those products to a per processor model. And obviously with what we've seen happen to SQL going from per processor to per core, lots of questions, will it go the same direction? We don't have any indication from Microsoft at this point that that is the case. I think Microsoft very much have bundled Windows Server and System Center together in this core infrastructure suite bundle, which is very compelling to customers from a price point of view and even a licensing point of view. So do we see them rock that boat? I haven't any indication of that at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So a couple more questions have come in. Which is better option, SCE or MPSA?
And so, yeah, it kind of reflects back to the first question. The SCE is an enterprise agreement type enrollment, and it still sits under the enterprise agreement. So today it's unaffected by the MPSA. So it's not comparing apples with apples. They are two separate type of agreements. The MPSA today is more license only, license and software assurance, and online services. For that committed spend and the additional discounts that you get by going that enterprise-wide commitment under an SCE, that is there today, and that will remain to be the preferred option for you until we see changes in that space.
Okay, I've got one here around software assurance. So can I renew SA from an existing contract under MPSA going forward?
Yes. So just to be very clear on that, if you have an open agreement today, a select agreement today, even an enterprise agreement today that you're choosing not to renew, you can renew that SA under an MPSA agreement. So taking the real example for today is Select Plus. If you have an agreement that the SA renewal is coming up for, the SA is coming up for renewal, I would suggest you strongly look at not renewing that under your Select Plus agreement, because by the time that ends, Select Plus will be fully retired by a year. You know, there's no danger to you. You'll still get the value from that, but I would suggest that you look at the new contract, the new model that's in place when renewing that SA.
Thank you. And so final question that I currently have on the board is, any word on being able to view the legacy VLSC agreements in the new MPSA portal?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. It's something I asked Microsoft a lot. I won't say I asked Microsoft a lot. I probably pester them because, as we know, under VLSC, maybe over the years, we've talked about 20 years of volume license agreements. So many agreements in there, open agreements, EA agreements, select agreements. It can be challenging to summarize what you own, and current versions and entitlement rights and all this good stuff. Going forward, Microsoft have, I firmly believe, a much better system for helping us manage our software assurance our software assets, etc. Do I see Microsoft being able to migrate your data from VLSC over to the new Microsoft portal? And unfortunately, I don't. I think it's too disparate. There would be too many challenges, and I don't believe they're going to be able to do that.
Okay.
But you will, no matter, sorry, I'm just throwing one comment, and then would be you will retain access to those systems because obviously they are your assets, but I don't see them migrating across.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. And thank you to everyone for your questions there, and I hope we were able to suitably address those. If you do have any further questions, there's still a couple of minutes left. We'll hold the line open, but I do suggest if you do have any further questions, please feel free to contact myself or Paul when I'll circulate the slides after the webinar when we close it off and send them around this afternoon, or indeed do directly contact your account manager to discuss any particular queries you may have. So thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you to Paul for taking us through today's session, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars.